competition under the mid-range segment is becoming fiercer by the day. In fact, the Honor 7C is the first smartphone from Honor under the sub 10,000 rupee category to bring features such as face unlock, dual rear cameras and an 18:9 display. Today we're going to compare the Honor 7C with its arch rival, the Redmi Note 5, to find out which one wins the competition. Let's start with the design. The Honor 7C looks a lot like its predecessor, the 7X, and it has a metal unibody design with curved edges. The top and bottom end of the phone has plastic build to it. The device feels pretty solid in the hand, and it definitely looks premium as well. It offers a good grip and it doesn't attract fingerprints on the back. The device measures 7.8 mm in thickness and it weighs around 164 grams. On the other hand, the Redmi Note 5 more or less carries the same design as the Note 4, but it has an 18:9 2.5D curved glass screen with gently rounded corners as the differentiating factor. The phone is 8.05 mm thick and it weighs slightly heavier at 180 grams. Now, even though the phone has a large screen, it is pretty compact to hold. It has a screen to body ratio of about 77%. Similar to the predecessor, it has a metallic finish in the middle while the top and bottom parts have a plastic finish because of the antennas. The build quality of both the smartphones is pretty good, but the Honor 7C feels a little lighter in the hand and it goes a little easier on your palm as well. The Honor 7C sports a 5.99-inch 18:9 full view 2.5D curved glass display. Now the screen is bright, the text looks sharp and color reproduction is absolutely on point. We also thought that the viewing angles are really good. The display is perfectly readable under sunlight conditions and outdoor scenarios. The screen also offers color temperature adjustments which include the default, warm and cold. Now the screen looks really good and colors really pop out a lot, so I think you're going to be pretty happy with the screen on the Honor 7C. On the other hand, the Redmi Note 5 has a 5.99-inch Full HD Plus display with a pixel resolution of 2160 by 1080 pixels and a pixel density of about 403 ppi. Now the display is bright thanks to 450 nits of brightness and it has a 1000:1 contrast ratio. Sunlight legibility continues to be good since it has a sunlight display which uses hardware level technology to adjust the contrast of each pixel in real time, and the images are thus less affected by glare. Now the Redmi Note 5's display compared to the Honor 7C feels just slightly washed out, and the slightly oversaturated display on the Honor 7C just makes your images and any content on the screen pop out a little more and just look a little better. The Honor 7C is powered by a 3000 mAh battery that can deliver up to a full day of battery life on a single charge. As expected, the battery life was pretty good and it got us through a full day, even with heavy usage. And at the end of the day, with casual usage, we got around 25% charge remaining as well. On the other hand, the Redmi Note 5 has a much larger 3900 mAh battery, but it does not have any fast charging technology. The battery life is good and it lasts for a full day with heavy usage. In this department, we felt that both the phones were fairly equally matched, but you will have a little more battery left over with the Redmi Note 5. Now let's talk performance. The Honor 7C is powered by an octa-core Snapdragon 450 chipset with an Adreno 506 GPU under the hood. In day-to-day usage, the device did not skip a beat and we didn't see any stutter, hang or lag. It processes everything regardless of what you throw at it thanks to the 4GB of RAM. We also did some intense gaming on the phone and we found no problem at all. The Redmi Note 5 on the other hand is powered by an octa-core Snapdragon 625 chipset, and this has 8 ARM Cortex A53 cores clocked at 2.02 GHz with 3GB or 4GB of RAM available depending on the variant. The performance is good and without any lags, but the company could have gone with a slightly faster Snapdragon 630 SoC. It does heat up a little bit with intensive gaming and 4G data use. All in all, in real-world performance, both the phones are fairly equally matched and you really wouldn't notice much of a difference in performance. Now the Honor 7C ships with Android 8.1 Oreo-based EMUI 8.0 out of the box. It also ships with a lot of customization options including a one-handed UI, motion control, ride mode, system navigation and much more. The Redmi Note 5 ships with MIUI 9, but this is built on the older version of Android, that is Android 7.1.2. MIUI 9 adds a lot of features including improved notifications, split screen and some apps like Mi Drop that let you transfer files between Android devices without requiring an internet connection. Now in the end, UI is a subjective topic, but with the latest Android version and some nice customizations on top, the Honor 7C does gain an edge over the Note 5. The Honor 7C comes equipped with a dual camera setup, a 13 megapixel rear camera with an LED flash, an f2.2 aperture and a secondary 2 megapixel camera. And the front side has an 8 megapixel camera with an aperture of f2.0. Talking about real world usage, the daylight pictures come out really good with a good amount of detail, and so do the macro shots. The camera is quick to focus on the subject, and the 8 megapixel front camera takes some really good shots. Most of the images turned out to be pretty good in daylight and low light conditions. The Redmi Note 5 has a 12 megapixel camera with an aperture of f2.2 accompanied with an LED flash. On the front you'll find a 5 megapixel camera with an f2.0 aperture. Now coming to the image quality, daylight shots are pretty good, but some of the images can appear a little dull. HDR shots are better as well as macro shots. In low light shots, there is a lot of noise in the image even when the LED flash is on. In terms of connectivity and storage options, both the smartphones support all the standard connectivity options including 4G VoLTE, Wi-Fi 8021, AC, B, GNN, Bluetooth 4.2 and GPS. Where the difference lies is that the Honor 7C has two dedicated SIM card slots as well as a micro SD card slot, while the Redmi Note 5 makes do with a hybrid SIM slot, so you cannot have two SIM cards and a micro SD card as well. The Honor 7C ships in two different variants, that is 3GB RAM with 32GB of storage and 4GB of RAM with 64GB of storage, and this can be expanded via the micro SD card slot up to 256GB. The Redmi Note 5 on the other hand has 3GB of RAM and 32GB of storage, or 4GB of RAM with 64GB of storage, and this can also be expanded via a micro SD card slot, but you'll have to give up one of the SIM card slots. So overall, as expected in this comparison, the Honor 7C stays slightly ahead of the competition, it stays slightly ahead of the Redmi Note 5, and we think that it's one of the better equipped devices and really brings you a lot of value for money in the sub 10,000 rupees segment. But what do you think about the Honor 7C and the Redmi Note 5? Let us know in the comment section. This comparison of the Honor 7C and the Redmi Note 5 was brought to you in collaboration with Honor. Thanks for watching.